Project Q is a new PS5 handheld system which Sony announced at their May 2023 PlayStation Showcase event. It is coming in after recent rumors that the company had plans to dip into the portable gaming market once again after the success of PSP, all knew and love that, and the PS Vita, a little bit less known and loved. Sorry to offend. All we know so far about Project Q is that the device will be launched later this year, and it will allow you to stream games from your PS5 console using remote play over Wi-Fi, including leaks stating that the device features an 8-inch LCD screen capable of up to 1080p resolution at 60 frames per second. The announcement teaser specified that games have to be installed on your PS5 console and that VR games are excluded, so don't get it twisted. This is a cloud gaming device, not a dedicated handheld.
I do think calling it a cloud device is a bit misleading. Not saying that you've done that, because I feel like a lot of people are saying this. All that Project Q is a screen, an 8-inch LCD screen that streams over Wi-Fi from your PlayStation 5. So basically think of it as a portable PS5. It's not communicating to a server like you can do with xCloud. It's literally using remote play, which is a term and a service that Sony have been trotting out as far back as the PlayStation 3 days, I want to say. But I remember communicating with my PlayStation Vita for life, of course, always my first love.
Sorry.
Not really my first love. I don't know why I said that, but yeah, one of my loves, one of my gaming loves. Yeah, because I can remember when it was probably a thing and trying to get Infamous 2 to work from my PlayStation 3 over to my Vita. So while there's part of me that's like, hey, PlayStation are clearly seeing that there's a gap in the market. You know, Nintendo have had a lot of success with the Nintendo Switch. And we're also seeing, obviously, we got things like the ROG Ally, which I know that you're familiar with a whole lot, Jasmine, the Steam Deck. And then it seems like PlayStation, with what they're calling Project Q, is just a shortcut to try and, pass itself off as like a handheld when that's not really what it is. But having said that, would I use this? Yes, I would, because where do I play my Nintendo Switch and Steam Deck? Right here in my house. There's no way you'd catch me using it on public transport.
If you are limited to using this thing in your house, I feel like it kind of defeats the purpose of portability. And I know that a lot of people do use their handheld devices at home, me included. Like, I literally was playing my Asus ROG Ally right there. Like, I wasn't using it in many other places. That's fine, but I don't know, it just feels a bit like it's not a standalone thing. You can't just take it out with you if you do want to or whatever. Like, you have to, does this mean that you have to have your PS5 turned on to be able to use it?
It absolutely does, as far as I can tell. If it's going to work in any way similarly to how remote play functions in the past, then you're going to need your PS5 on. So the only benefit, the only use case, and I think this is why people are likening it, or jokingly likening it to the Wii U, is because with the Wii U, the whole idea was someone can watch telly while you play games in your house portably. And obviously the range on that thing, I think it was like barely over 10 feet. And it's a similar thing here, because you can't go out of the house with this thing. You can't communicate via like 5G on the thing. It's literally just a tether to your existing PlayStation 5. So, I mean, I live alone. I'd probably still use this because I think, having something like YouTube up in the background while I get to play God of War Ragnarok in my hands, like, that is a cool experience. Part of me is glad that we're not getting Vita 2 and that they are kind of putting this out just as an option. We understand it's not for everybody, but it's there if you want it, kind of thing. Because let's not forget, if you have one of these, any game you play on your PS5, you can also suddenly play remotely. Whereas with Steam Deck, the barrier to entry is £350 minimum. And then granted, Steam games do tend to be priced significantly lower than PlayStation games, and there's a lot more games available, but it saves you having to build up that back catalogue or your games library again. So, and the reason I say that I'm happy that this isn't Vita 2 is because I think we're already seeing from PlayStation VR 2 that PlayStation in its current state really isn't equipped to support more than one device. Like, we've had one for true first-party games so far at launch, Horizon Call of the Mountain, and then what other first-party PlayStation VR 2 games have we got coming? You hear that? Crickets. Not a lot coming. So I dread to think, knowing how poorly they supported the Vita in the first couple of years of its life and then basically gave up on it. That's why I feel like they're trying to have their cake and eat it a bit and say, see, we do care about handheld gaming. We understand that there's a market there, but we're not willing to go all in.
So I said Project Q really could have been the next big thing in the handheld gaming market. It could have allowed people who don't have access to a PS5 console to still get their hands on amazing PlayStation exclusives, which would have allowed it to continue to conquer the gaming market. Instead, we have been handed another glorified device, which frankly probably won't do much more than what your mobile phone can do. And that is my honest opinion. I had to read it like that because I couldn't summarize it any better than how I did there. This could have been so cool. Could you imagine how cool it would have been for people that don't own a PS5 to still be able to access all of these PS5 exclusive titles, don't have to wait for them to be ported to PC 3 years later and then be really crap and not be able to work? Like, it could have been absolutely fantastic. And now just being told it's a remote play system, which like you can already do with your phone, is just like so disappointing.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it would have been cool, but the price would have been too high. Like, the device you're describing, it would be the same price as a PlayStation 5 console. They'll try and justify the price because it comes packed with all the functions of the traditional PlayStation 5 DualSense controller, to which I would counter and offer a riposte and say, that's fine. What games actually use the haptic feedback in a way that's interesting or, must play, other than Astrobot, which was a PlayStation 5 launch game? I bet Astrobot would feel amazing to play portably on Project Q, but that they can't keep using that as a crux when they're not telling even their first party teams, or maybe even worse, maybe they are telling their first party teams. We'll find out when Spider-Man 2 comes out later this year. All I know is that I played God of War Ragnarok, and not for a second did I, whilst I was using my controller, think, oh, this feels amazing to play. It's getting amazing support out of the haptic rumble. So Spider-Man 2, that's like the first proper, as far as I can recall, first party PlayStation 5 exclusive that isn't coming out on PS4 either. And I'm interested to see how that game, which we'll talk a bit more about, makes use of the DualSense controller. But I'm rambling and ranting a bit now. There's so much.
I think you're absolutely right in the sense that the haptic feedback is a big part of the DualSense controller, and it's clearly a big part of the new Project Q device, considering that when they first announced it and launched it, that was like a big thing that they said, is that this has all the features that you have on a DualSense controller, and they specified in the trailer haptic feedback, adaptive triggers, all of this stuff. So clearly these are like selling points, right? But I just feel like games aren't utilizing it correctly. So even if it is a selling point, even if you can get a controller that rumbles really nicely, if it's not happening in the games, what does it matter?
Why is it called Project Q?
Right. This is what I wanted to speak about. Right.
Baffling.
This is such a rushed release. This trailer, everything, it was just so rushed. Sorry if this was what you were going to ask me, but I feel like Sony scrambled after how successful the Asus ROG Ally was. Obviously, the Steam Deck's been around for ages, and it was like, okay, the Steam Deck is doing really well, but that was easy for people to pass off as okay, this is a one-off. Valve did it. They did it really, really well. They subsidized it a ton. Do we want to take that loss? Probably not. Then in comes Steam Deck V2, Asus ROG Ally, and it's done really well in terms of like reception and stuff. I don't think pre-order numbers are actually out there yet for us to see how many units are selling, but just in terms of reception, in terms of how many people you hear talking about it, in terms of how many people you see saying that they've put a pre-order in, it has had an amazing reception. People are really invested in this handheld device because it's sort of like the next step up in terms of compared to the Steam Deck. Do we think that Sony were like, oh my god, this is working, we need to just like slap a name on our handheld and stick it in the end of a trailer?